All right, welcome everybody. Thank y'all for rearranging schedules. It's always kind of weird having stuff pop up, which is kind of a more common occurrence with planning commission than with council, it seems like. But hopefully Carl will jump on here in a minute and um, join in with any discussion we have. Welcome to your first official meeting, Kevin. Glad to have you here. And we are going to trying to set up interviews with a couple of other individuals who have expressed interest, looking to get that done. Probably not going to be this week, but hopefully next week, depending on my schedule and the schedule of the rest of the committee that's going to be doing the interviewing. So we'll go ahead and get with the first order of business tonight, and that is, and I don't know, Sharon, I don't know if we want to, if there's anything we need to read from the minutes. Everything's been fairly recent, and I think, does anybody need anything read from the minutes? You might want to do just maybe a brief synopsis since Kevin wasn't at the last regular meeting of the Planning Commission.
Okay. AC informed us that the BZA approved mass severance variance changes. First order of business was the discussion of the second section development of the orchards, which consists of 36 lots. This area is zoned R3 conditional. Carl Snyder, owner and engineer, was present. Information in regards to traffic will be submitted to VDOT. And let me see what else is important. Sarah Berry made a motion to approve the development and send to council for the January 14th meeting. Greg Gillette second, a motion was carried. Second order of business was the planned Roxbury subdivision. Max Van Arnswalt, owner, developer, and William Moore, engineer, was present to answer questions. No square foot of single homes was listed in the plans, which was a concern. Mr. Von Arnswalt said they would be in the 1,500 to 2,000 square feet range. Sarah Berry and Carl Megenhofer had concerns about the increase in traffic at the Lone Pine intersection. This will be discussed with VDOT. And the joint public hearing will be held January 14th during council meeting. I'm just going by the highlights, okay? And that's all I think that's important. The other is just about the applications for the vacancies from the Planning Commission, but you already addressed that, so. Okay?
I can't hear you, AC.
Yeah, I can't hear you, AC. No.
Sorry, AC.
Hey, Carl.
Hey. Got bathing the baby, and all of a sudden, it's like, whoops.
All right, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm going to try to, let me. Okay, I've had to do this before too. I think it might have been with Max and Bill one time before. I had to use the phone possibly. So you're going to get, let's see here. Let's do, so that it doesn't look really weird. All right. How about that? We got video from one feed and audio from another. Okay, we're good. All right. Carl, you didn't miss much because I'm having technical difficulties here.
That's good. That's good.
No, it's not good, but it's beneficial. So we were talking about, Sharon was going through the minutes to kind of refresh everybody's memory on the last regular scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission when we had talked to Max and Bill, the concerns that were expressed. And where were we? Somebody refresh me because I completely lost my train of thought after all that jumbo there.
Okay. You want me to read something else?
No, let's just go with that. And if we have any questions about anything else later, we can jump back to those minutes then. So,
Okay.
I think what I was going to ask, I remember what I was going to ask, I was going to see if any of the Planning Commission members wanted to chair the meeting tonight, or if you want me to just do it this time until we get a chairperson.
Oh, you do such a good job.
I don't know about that. Okay.
You can take the wheel.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that Sharon read out of the minutes was talking about the concern that was expressed about the intersection at Lone Pine and American Legion. And I've contacted VDOT about that to see if they would do an evaluation and what the process is to look at realignment, so that, just so that the American Legion Drive would go straight across Lone Pine instead of doing that jog there. And also asked them to look at the intersection down here from the town office at 211 and South Main Street, because that one does the exact same thing and pretty prone to accidents or potential accidents down there with people coming up off of 4th Street. So anyway, I've sent that to VDOT. I haven't heard anything back from them about that. So I'll follow up on that and see if they can get any kind of, get them to look at that. As you know, we had the public hearing at the last town council meeting, and I read the input from the public that responded prior to the meeting, and we didn't have anybody contact us during the meeting to express their thoughts. So the next step is for the Planning Commission to look at the proposal that's been presented from Max and Bill, and to formulate a recommendation to the town council. Town council can take that up at the next regular meeting in February. So probably the best way to start off is, are there any concerns that the Planning Commission has right now, or further questions that were spurred by the discussion, by the public hearing, or anything that you thought of in the meantime?
AC, were the only issues raised kind of sight lines and the typical property value type questions?
There was the property values. The other thing that was expressed there that people were questioning was the water pressure, and we've sent that over to our engineer to have that evaluated. They modeled the system not that many years ago, and there hasn't really been much of anything added except a new line, and the new 8-inch line that goes up across the hill to tie into the backside of Legion Hills. So it really should improve. I don't know if it really
it should stabilize pressure. We shouldn't see any really drop in pressure. What that line did, it actually provided more flow. And Chris and I have been in discussion with Max and Bill about the water line route throughout the development, and have come to a verbal agreement. Max was good with the idea that Chris came up with about running the line down Irish Lane instead of coming off of the bottom of the hill and running up through the development that way. By doing that, the line that goes in and feeds the upper section of the development will be an 8-inch line coming off of an existing 8-inch line, as opposed to an 8-inch coming off of the 6-inch line down at the bottom of the hill and trying to feed the entire development. So I'll be going to council because it's a change that we're requesting. We're going to look at some concessions possibly on the connection fees because it creates more work for Max and Bill, obviously more money, and the changing the location instead of just running through an open field. And I think Max or Bill addressed this during the one of the previous meetings or public hearing, is that it will be more costly to run it down next to the road there for
Right.
It's just a more costly way to run it than it is to go up through open field. And it would be a nice improvement for the town to have it going down Irish that way. So I'll be going to the council and looking at doing some, some concessions with the connection fees that we have in that area. So.
Yeah, I thought you had mentioned, or they had mentioned at the joint meeting with council, that they had come up with some sort of compromise on the water line there. And I was hoping that would alleviate some of the concerns that have been raised earlier.
Right. And, as soon as our engineer, he's working on the modeling of it now, and he'll get back to us pretty rapid on to make sure that there aren't any issues. One of the things that I will be bringing before the council during the upcoming budget session, which, it's not directly applicable to the proposal that we have here, but that whole area in general, we looked at that when we had the system modeled years ago. And one of the ideas that the engineer came up with was that we should have a tank over in that area somewhere. That's really the only way to improve the pressure drastically. Our maintenance supervisor, Chris, lives over in Legion Hills development, and he's on the back side of the development. And Chris said, yeah, he doesn't have as much pressure as when he lived down on, I believe it's Oak Street. But, I think there may be some educational stuff that we can do with the residents in that area as far as the pressure reducing valves go. It's just a standard practice to put pressure reducing valves on houses. Some places in Timberville have really high pressure because of the layout of the water system. And so you need a pressure reducing valve to keep your fixtures in your house from leaking. They'll even if they're off, it's so much pressure in certain areas that it'll force the water out past the faucets. So it's just a general practice to put pressure reducing valves in. Well, when you do that in certain areas where you have low pressure, it can have a negative effect on it. And they may need to just be adjusted, and the pressure reducing valves don't last that long. I mean, some of the houses in that development are 15 years old now, because that development was started in Legion Hills was started back in 2004, 2005. So the life of some of those pressure reducing valves is definitely past. It's gone. So we're going to try to do an information campaign and get that out to the residents in that area and let them know these are some things. If you're really having trouble with in the pressure that you think you should have, these are some things to try, and some things that just general maintenance, homeowner maintenance that needs to be done too. So.
Okay, so these water pressure, these valves are on the customer end, the consumer end.
Yes, that's correct. They're in the houses. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I may have got off track there, but what I'm talking about doing is going to the council during this budget cycle and requesting that the connection fees, or a large portion of the connection fees that we'll realize from this development and the Orchards development go towards a new tank project where we could find some place to put a tank over in this area on the south side of the river. Since both of our storage facilities are on the north side of the river now, it just makes sense. It kind of balances everything out, and it will help with the pressure that way too.
I know you said that we haven't heard back from the VDOT yet. Do you know historically how long it takes for us to hear back from them on assessing something? Like, I know it's atrocious.
It varies.
Okay.
I sent them 2 emails the same day. One was about this, and the other was about a drainage issue over on Lone Pine Drive. And I got a response back immediately on the Lone Pine Drive, but I still haven't heard anything on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's typical, but I just know that, when housing developments happen, people tend to complain about traffic
Right.
pretty early on in the, in the process. So
Yeah.
I was just wondering if, kind of head it off before it really starts, if we say we
Right.
have a plan or something like that.
Right. And that was one of the concerns that was expressed by a resident that is over there now, I believe on Irish, and they were talking about the increase in traffic by having Irish extended and the access for the upper part of the development. And yeah, it'll obviously add more traffic to Irish Lane when you put houses in behind it.
Right.
It's one of those things that's kind of hard to gauge how much traffic, because it varies on who moves into the development, and just the makeup of the household can have a huge impact on how many cars are going in and out of there.
Right.
The other thing that we look at is on that plan, and let me pull the plan up.
But AC, reconstruction of that intersection would be advantageous considering the development that is likely to happen on that side of town anyway in the future. Is that an accurate assessment?
I would say any improvements that are made to that intersection would be beneficial, no matter how long it takes for anything to develop over there. But you're right. We're looking, we took in the 32 acres of the Spitzer property into the town corporate limits. A year or 2.5 years ago, something like that. And I can see that you've got that property and the remainder of their property, which is our growth area. And then you have Mr. Swope's property where the new water line went up through the field. They're both set up, to me, they would look very attractive for some kind of development, whether it be residential or commercial. My opinion, I would think that the Spitzer Brothers property, which is west of Lone Pine Drive, between Lone Pine Drive and 42, I could see that going more towards commercial because of what's already around there: food line, shopping center, the Centera medical facility. And then I could see, I think just the way things have been designed so far with Legion Hills and the way this is being shown, Mr. Swope's property, I would see being more focused towards a residential design or residential development. And you can see, let's see here. So that's probably not the best sheet to show. Well, and so I must not have the right document pulled up as far as the complete document for what I want to show, but we can go off of this one for now. You can see this would be the upper section, Irish Lane extended. So American Legion Drive would be off to the right looking at the screen. And this would come on through the intersection. You have the 2 cul-de-sacs that go off either direction there east and west, and then come on out here, and this would be a dead end stub of a road that would go right up to Mr. Swope's property. And there's a similar scenario in Legion Hills development on Honor Drive, where it's it goes up and stubs right up against Mr. Swope's property. And I just envision in the future, those are going to be going through whenever Mr. Swope's property develops. And I would honestly think that more traffic or more people would probably end up accessing these lots that Max and Bill are proposing in the upper section by coming up off of Lone Pine Drive up through whatever the development is through Mr. Swope's field, as opposed to going down, coming up American Legion Drive around and in Irish that way. That's just a somewhat educated guess, but it's kind of a common sense approach to it, at least how the development would look. And it's something that when Mr. Swope's property, at whatever point that would develop, that would be the conversations that we would have with whoever decides to develop that. This is what we would like to see as far as the street system in that would be developed on Mr. Swope's property. And so it could tie in there, and it would also tie in up to Honor Drive in the Legion Hills subdivision. So I don't remember what the original question was, but I gave you a whole bunch of extra stuff there. So
The reason I asked AC is because, I'm curious if people want to tie, correction of this intersection to this one development when it's really something that probably needs to be done for several developments. This just happens to be the first one that's actually on the table in front of us.
Right, exactly. And I know Bill addressed this at one point. It's VDOT sent the comments back, and the comments were pretty easy to address. It was a fairly lengthy list, but they were fairly minimal in the comments. And VDOT didn't look at anything as far as requiring Max and Bill to improve that intersection.
Yeah, Austin, just to kind of give a little more, kind of repeat the history on that.
Sure.
This was a by right development when we proposed a updated master plan for the R5, right? So essentially when the town annexed the property and then rezoned the property, that was the opportunity for VDOT to kind of have their biggest bite of the apple, if you will. But so when it comes to offsite improvements, in other words, improvements that are beyond our property ownership, by right excludes that when you come in with an application that's already zoned appropriately, which is of course what we had in this case. Now, also to speak a little bit about your connectivity, VDOT's access management regulations will require the next developer to connect to our stub. We were required to provide the stub to adjacent properties in general, and that just happened to be the most logical direction because of topography. But the next developer, he'll be required to provide a connection to our stub to make that cohesive in the long term. So that kind of addresses your beyond. It would be nice. It's basically going to be required. So
okay.
You're covered from the current access management regulations regardless.
Okay.
Have you heard any other concerns from any property owners since we had the town council meeting, the joint meeting?
No, I haven't heard.
Okay.
We received those. I think it was 5 comments, I believe, prior to the meeting, and that's all that I've heard. That's all.
And no follow up from them on their concerns?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? Thoughts?
I don't, and I appreciate you letting us know what is required of you and what is required by VDOT, et cetera, because this is the first time since I've been on council where I've been a part of this decision making. And so a lot of this is very new to me in trying to navigate it. So I appreciate you letting me know, what are reasonable requests, what are not reasonable requests, et cetera. So thank you.
Right. You're welcome. Yeah. Well, and that, I feel like it's a learning process for me every time I go through this because we don't have that many developments that come through Timberville. And so I do have checklists of things that I look at. I ended up developing a checklist several years ago because it made it much more efficient, a little bit quicker to go through and be like, yeah, do they have this, and this? And, whereas, a larger locality, you would have an entire staff assigned to do this task and they would be doing these kind of reviews on a very frequent basis. So.
Right. Well, and given how quickly houses and properties are being sold in the market right now, I'm excited about seeing more development coming into town. So this is cool to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, all my questions have been answered. So I don't have anything else.
Anybody else?
Austin, if I could just expand a little bit on your comments there. I'm checking your what you call the slope property beyond our Irish Lane stub, and it appears to be currently zoned A2. I believe that might be correct. It could be inaccurate, but I'm going to assume that's correct. That being the case, when a new developer comes in, that will be the opportunity for the town and VDOT to address more, because then it'll be a rezoning request, right? So
right, exactly.
It won't be a by right application. So now VDOT gets their chance to take a bigger bite of the apple, if you will, to address intersections. That'll more likely connect down to American Legion somewhere, right, for the main entrance, and all that's going to come up. A full traffic study will be needed depending on how big a development it is, or how much property they're going to zone, frankly. And that's when the town needs to be real cognizant of their bigger plans when that does get rezoned.
Right. And that was one of the thoughts. I'm glad you brought that up, Bill. That was one of the things that we discussed, and Sharon probably remembers that back when, and Carl too, probably when we did the annexation. How was that? We were talking about we did the same thing with the Spitzer property. When the Spitzer property was brought into the town corporate limits a year or two ago, we didn't change the zoning on it at that time. We left it agricultural. And because that was the reason, because it would require anybody that would come in to request a rezoning of the property, and kind of it does exactly what you said, Bill. It gives the town more opportunity at that point to have a much more in-depth dialogue with whoever wants to develop the property. So, and the town can express their wants and desires at that time. Anybody else? Kevin's a lot coming in at you all of a sudden. Any questions?
No, I took a look at everything. Actually breezed through all the documents. A lot of them I'm very familiar with. I actually drove up to where the site's going to be. I wanted to lay eyes on it. And again, I don't really have any questions that's not already been asked or addressed that was already in my mind. And as far as the comments and stuff that we got from the public is typical, from my understanding. So I don't think there really was any red flags or anything that I would consider anything out of the ordinary.
Okay. All right. Sharon, do you have any questions or anything further? Okay. All right, so if there's nothing else, then Planning Commission will need to formulate a recommendation to send to the council on this. For
How do you need, it's just like, I recommend moving, like, I'm for it. I just need to know what kind of,
So yeah, so you could word your motion some way. We recommend the council approve the master plan as proposed, and with the proposed change in the water line going down Irish.
okay. Okay. I make a motion to approve, wait, I should have been taking notes.
Recommend approval.
Thank you. Recommend approval for the development with the changes proposed to the Timberville Town Council.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. We have a motion and a properly seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 I think it was everybody, so there probably isn't anybody in the nay category. So, all righty, thank you all very much for that. And Bill and Max, thank you all, and we'll be talking soon as we go forward from here. So,
Good. Thanks, Austin.
thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
So, all right. Other business for the Planning Commission. I had a list as I was going through trying to clean up my notepads today. There are two things that we'll have coming up in the near future. One will be, we had talked about the vacant property ordinance, and I've got that from the attorneys, so I will send that out to everybody to review and hopefully get that on the get that in front of y'all next month so that we can talk about that and get some action going on with council on that. And then the other one was capacity. What am I trying to say? Dwelling occupancy limits. There we go. That's what I was trying to think of. And we had talked about that several months ago. And I don't know that we had discussion about it and we never came to any solid conclusion. So I'll be bringing that back to Planning Commission unless somebody remembers differently. Carl, do you remember differently on that?
Well, I mean, does council want a recommendation on that? Is that what the situation is?
I think that's what we talked about. I will get clarification at the next council meeting on that. And if they do, then I'll bring it back to you all.
Yeah, I think the concern, if I recall the conversation, there was just a lot of ambiguity in there. And, you know, I think there was also some concern about it being targeted at some folks. And I know we had some issues with some migrant workers who were caught up in some scenarios that they had no idea what they were dealing with. And I don't know, it looked like an ordinance looking for a problem. In my estimation, is kind of what was the discussion we had.
Okay.
That was my impression. Other folks might have thought differently, but I mean, I don't have a problem if we want to revisit it, and I wouldn't have a problem making a motion that we recommend to council not to enact an ordinance. I mean, that would be my recommendation, just from my recollection of the conversation we had. But we also have a different planning commission now. And I think other folks who may want to have their voice heard, or at least want to know what we were talking about. And I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll poll the town council and find out if this is something that they want the planning commission to look at further, or if there's no interest from the town council, if they feel that we already have adequate measures in place to address, concerns with which we do through our, if you can establish who family members are and who family members aren't, and enforcement that way through the zoning ordinance. So, but anyway, I'll poll the council and find out from them what their desire is if they want the planning commission to look at this further.
Has that continued to be a problem? Like,
I don't know. It seems like we may have had one more instance where there was a someone trying to do a rental of a property, and I think it got caught before the tenants moved into the rental property, I believe. So
okay.
But, you know, there's a few people who have multiple rental properties around town, or more than one rental property around town, and so they're kind of aware of it now because it's kind of hit some of the properties that they've owned. So that I think they're getting more educated on it and know what to look for when they have a vacancy come up in one of their units, one of their rental properties. They have a better idea of what questions to ask, I think, now that we've kind of gone through it with them a little bit. So.
Okay. I was just curious, like I hadn't heard anything other than what had, instigated, like what the original issue. Sorry,
Right.
I can't talk. I'm very tired.
Yeah, but no,
Yeah. All right.
So, the property at the corner of Main Street and Church Street, North Main and Church Street. I think Sharon asked about that during the council meeting. And so I am in the process of, we were trying to get a meeting set up this week. Actually, it looks like it's going to be a meeting, a Zoom meeting next week between the county building official, the EPA contact that I've been dealing with, and I can't remember if the DEQ, Virginia DEQ representatives are going to be there or not. One of them may be, or be in on that meeting. And we're going to, I think all these different parties have all talked to the property owner, and everybody's coming away with a different version of a story. So should have had this meeting some time ago, but we're going to all meet and develop a game plan and get a direction that everybody's comfortable with, and so that everybody's on the same page, and get that situation addressed. So the building official, we had reports of people going in the building, and so the building official came down. I talked to him today. He said he was actually down last night and reposted the property and put up some additional no trespassing or no entry signs, whatever the correct term is. And our town crew has put up some of the plastic construction fence around the side where the big gaping hole is. The EPA rep recommended that, as did the building official. I believe the building official had suggested that too. And it was about, I think our guys did about as good of a job as they could with what they had to work with there, without rebuilding the entire side of the wall out of plywood, which would have probably taken an entire plywood factory to provide the material for. There was no way to box up the entire hole in the wall. And Kevin, this is, you're probably not familiar with this, or maybe, but this is on the kind of a bigger yellow building on the southeastern corner of Church Street, Main Street intersection. If you drive up through there and you look up between the house that's just to the south of that building, you can see there's a huge gaping hole in the wall where the building is just falling apart. And the concern is that it could collapse and fall into either Church Street or Main Street. And so the town had gone through a year and a half or so, maybe a little bit longer ago than that, trying to get the building demolished. And we had to call in survey crews to assess the asbestos and hazmat materials that are in the building. Got the report back. And so there's a little bit of questioning from the different parties involved as to what's in there, where is it located, and what the remediation process is for that. We'd received a bid from a contractor several years ago about what it would cost to demolish the building. And we had done a budget amendment at the time for 28,000. And that was just for the demolition of the building. That didn't include any remediation of hazardous materials, asbestos. So it's going to be a little bit more than that. And that's something that that the council will have to look at as far as what kind of amendment do we need to make. We'll get updated cost on demolition, because when you get into that removal of those types of materials, that does add considerable expense, which we found out with one of the other properties the town owned and tore a building down on. So, so anyway, we're working on that to try to get that taken care of.
Have we heard anything else about the property that's up on, not High Street?
Montevideo.
Yeah. Yeah, that other property, because there's like a tree down all over it now too.
Yeah, I believe the owners are selling that property, because I was contacted by someone who was going to purchase the property, and what they wanted to do was purchase the property and just raise everything, because everybody realizes that there's no value to that structure anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll follow up on that one though too, with the property owner, and see. They had, before they had plans, before they had somebody interested in buying it, I think they had said that they were going to tear it down within the year, and that would be coming up pretty soon from when I'd sent the letter to them. So I'll follow up with that and let you all know what I find out on that.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty desirable lot.
It should be.
It's beautiful up there.
Yes.
Yeah. But
you have the
that
road
tree
in
is
front
just
of you, but behind
rotten.
you, behind you right now, it's open field, so it does have pretty nice views. So
yeah. Have we heard anything else out of is it Khalil that owns Mason Motors lot and the old cannery building?
Right. And no.
I mean, the guy is like impossible to. Okay.
Yeah. Haven't heard anything about that recently. There's always somebody ready to buy it, is the story that I always get. So, but no, I haven't heard any more about that recently. So.
All right. Just curious.
We do have the lot that is two doors or two parcels north of the town office where the auto sales is located. I don't know if anybody noticed, several weeks ago they were surveying that property, and I've been contacted. We actually had a Miss Utility come through for doing some drilling some test holes for utility location. Apparently that property is, I guess it's under contract, but it looks like somebody is working to develop that property. It's 4 lots there. Each lot is 50 foot wide. So it's between the Moose Lodge and where the heart of the home used to be.
Evan, got it. Yep.
Yes, yeah, yep, exactly. Yeah. And so there's 4 lots there. There's 2 that front on Main Street and 2 that front on First Avenue. They're 50 foot wide, so you get 100 foot frontage on Main Street, and it goes all the way back to First Avenue. I've contacted the development company and got the answer I expected to get when I called them and asked if they could tell me, what was going in there. I've got some suspicions. I'm not going to say what they are right now based on the company.
What's the current zoning there, Austin?
It's B1 business. So
a lot of by right.
Yeah, yeah, and it's and the representative I talked to with the development company, who he said I'd talked to him. He called me about a year or so ago. He said that what they're looking at is I believe 23 to 2,500 square foot retail store. So that narrows it down that much. So. But anyway, that I think is probably going to move pretty quick.
It'll be great to have that marijuana dispensary here, Austin.
Is it a Chick-fil-A?
Right. That's gonna be everybody's question, right? It's the guessing game. Maybe we could start a town contest. What's going in here? So, but the
Yeah, we should like raffle off tickets or something for that.
yeah, there you go. I talked to the consulting firm. It's not exactly the right word, but they're the ones who are overseeing the project for the drilling of the test drills, and they said that with their experience with this development company, that they work with them now. They said that their experience is that about 5 or 6 months after the drilling holes are done, that's when construction starts. So if it is that quick, it'd be coming along really fast, and we should know something fairly soon because they'll have to start submitting plans pretty soon.
Yeah, and I was going to say stuff like signage and whatnot would come to us, right?
Yes, that's right. Yep. Yeah. So everything will be, we've got that, the changes that were made a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, that everything's monument style signs, to keep everything more low profile and just a little bit better looking. So, any questions about anything else? I think I've updated on as much as I can possibly update on right now that I can think of, unless y'all have questions about anything else.
I don't have anything else.
Anybody else? No? And y'all have my email. If you ever have any questions, just shoot them over to me. Or Carl will call me and ask if I'll call him so he can get a sound clip and make me uncomfortable.
That's right. That's exactly what will happen.
Better you than me, AC. That's all I
Yeah.
gotta say.
Well, if he calls and asks for a sound clip, I'm going to tell him that I'll just say that one of the planning commission members said that there's a marijuana dispensary coming in. So,
That's well played. So
When's the governor coming to cut the ribbon on that?
All right. Well, unless anybody has anything else, any other questions, anything? No? All right. Seeing nothing, we will adjourn the meeting, and thank you all very much for changing the date there, and maybe we'll meet on our regular meeting date next month. So.
what? All right. Thanks, AC.
Thanks,
All right.
AC.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Good night.